So we have to realize that when you get upset or when you get frustrated because somebody on the team or somebody outside of your vision doesn't see it or is doing something that seems boneheaded, that's actually good. It's actually affirming your value in the market. And so your job isn't to go out and find a bunch of entrepreneurs or a bunch of NASA certified, astronauts. Your job is to actually find a bunch of McDonald's employees that can function excellently in your system.
You've got to get around people that are doing the shit you want to be doing on the level and volume of what you want to be doing. Go in and be the damn student. I could learn from every person in this room. Think about how you talk about your business. Yes, passion sells, but you can't carry on a real conversation outside the passion. You're gonna lose. So the whole point of all of this is, one, show up as you, fucking loud. Two, get yourself in frickin' rooms that scare the shit out of you. It's really about looking at those things that you know will move the business forward and doing them anyways. Thank you for allowing me to always show up as me, and thank you for showing up as you. Welcome to growth mode.
So, Jason, dude, I've really enjoyed getting to know you, man. You and I kind of are cut from a very similar cloth, and it's been really cool freaking talking to you. So I'm stoked to sit down and talk to you kind of about the big vision of the company, the things that we're doing. But I'm going to come at it straight out the gate, dude. I'm just not a goal setting guy.
Yeah.
I'm one of those dudes that when you set a goal, it's a demotivating thing. And I've done enough research on it to know that I'm not wrong in my way of thinking. Um, there's a point of goals, but I'm more of micro goals, would set a task for today and knock it down. I've never been the guy that says, let's project way out and see if we can get there. I like a vision because, we have a massive vision to literally get as many people to freedom through building a business as possible. Because I think building a business is the greatest way to meet the dude in the mirror. Um, but I don't have like a finite, we will have help X amount of people by X amount of date, blah, blah, blah crap out there because that shit just doesn't work for me. So where do we start as far as trying to project in the future, all that kind of fun stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So for starters, I agree. I think that it can be very easy for people, especially young entrepreneurs, but just entrepreneurs in general. We're visionaries. I think, Elon Musk is a great example of that. He sets a goal and he tells us we're going to have cyber trucks in 6 months, and then 3 years later they haven't rolled off the line. Right? It's very
Right.
common visionary entrepreneurs. And Donnie, I agree. I think we're cut from a very similar cloth, and that's definitely a describer of who we are. Right.
Right.
And so I'd rather,
Really quick on
yeah,
that Elon thing, there's to say that though. He also says we're going to be on Mars, but he hasn't
yeah,
set a deadline for that yet. Right. I
yeah, yeah,
love that.
yeah,
Right. That
yeah.
makes sense to me.
Well,
Okay.
and
All
I
right.
also think too, at a certain point with him, just to kind of cap that off, like it's there's a little gonzo entrepreneurialism of that, which is like he's casting this like bigger vision, bigger picture, more audacious goals. And I think there's a purpose to it. And if you kind of know that's his language, then you just kind of take that with it when you plunk down the $1,000 or whatever it is to,
100%.
to pre-register for a car. But getting back to goals, the way I like to think about it is like land nav. So if you're somebody that's trying to navigate across a map, right? You're trying to navigate across to a mountain or something like that. Let's say that's your goal, this big mission that you have to help as many people as you possibly can in the way that your company does. These goals along the way are kind of checkpoints. And so if you use a mark, a
Mm.
specific mark that you're working your way towards, that's going to give you, like, literally physiologically, it's going to give your reticular activating system an actual finite goal that it's focused on in the short or medium term that is leading you towards that long term. And so, sure, if you end up making your way towards that spot on the map and there's some unexpected reason why you're not going to end up actually going to that point, that's kind of not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to keep the day-to-day tactical work that you're doing. Cause like you, Donnie, I'm a list guy. I work off of a
Right.
day-to-day
Right.
list, but it has to be only in steps that are leading me towards those ultimate goals. And it can be really difficult for entrepreneurs to navigate that if they're always head down. And so if we can just for a second, I'd like to kind of reset the table with the way I look at just running a business.
Yeah. Let's do it.
The way I look at running a business is you have the core functions of your business, just imagine that's in the now. Like, what is right now? What is the one thing standing in my way, or the one biggest hole in my boat that I should be working on now, tactically and strategically as the owner of the business? That's sort of the now point. And then at any given time, I need to address whether it's marketing or sales or fulfillment or administrative stuff, whatever it might be. What is the area of my business that's currently the choke point that's stopping me from progressing towards my ultimate goal? And then the second thing I want to do is take that same idea, but put it out into time and basically say, am I looking enough at the long term goal of the company? Am I looking enough at the day to day? Because you can imagine phases of your business where you're just launching. And so the only thing, or you're just deciding on building a business. So the only thing you're thinking about is this long term goal. Or you can imagine you're in the weeds a little bit and you're crushing it on getting new clients, but you're really, really focused on doing stuff today. And so I like to think of that exercise as sort of like an avatar in a video game. And then there's like the things that I need to be focused on right now. I need to make sure I'm always kind of paying attention to, like gauges on a car. And
Right.
then the things that go out into time, I just want to make sure that I have a balanced approach to the way I'm viewing the timeline in the business, making sure that I'm still focused on achieving that big goal at the end, as well as keeping on top of the things day to day. But let's circle back just a little bit to you, Donnie, and your company. You said you had a mission. For me, the hierarchy is mission, then it's goals, then it's the strategies that we believe will get us to those goals, and the tactics that support that strategy. So help us understand or reset the table for those listeners who haven't heard before. What is the mission of the company?
So the mission overall, it started out as a vision that became the mission. So it was to literally change how the B2B world networks. So we're on a trek to literally recreate the B2B networking environment by restructuring, rebuilding, and recreating how networking groups actually function by bringing these right service-based business owners together. So, and we've successfully done that. But not on scale, if you will. So now the mission is, can we take this worldwide with the same model and with what we're doing to ultimately affect the overall vision of, see, and I always have vision stacked higher than mission, right? Because vision for me is what is that thing we're trying to get to. Mission is how do we get there? That's how I've
Yeah.
always had it in my head.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. The only question I would ask is sort of coming away from that. I'm not sure when I would be able to shake your hand and go, "You did it." You see what I mean? And so tell me what a post-skinned cat looks like. Tell me what it looks like if this business were to achieve that goal. And so what does that say?
It's a quarter of the BNI membership if we were like to put a tangible. So like BNI somewhere right now is around 400,000 members. So I don't need 400,000, but 100,000, because the way I look at it is every BNI group out there has two of our ideal people in it, right? Because there's two people in every BNI chapter, and BNI is an amazing organization, right? Nothing against them, but there's two people in there that sell high ticketed B2B like services. So they're like commercial real estate, there's
Mhm.
software, there's SaaS, they're selling this more higher end stuff, and being around the realtors, the mortgage and the likes, they're just not going to get to the business level they need to get to because those people aren't talking to the ranks that they need to be talking to.
Mhm.
So if we got to 100,000 members, we'd be a quarter of where BNI is. And that's the market share that I want to hold for the company as a whole.
I love it. And so talk to me about a timeline in your
I have
Elon
no
Musk wildest
clue.
dream. So outside of 5 years, outside of 10 years?
I God. So it's hard for me to fathom that we could do it in 5 years, right?
Right.
And I also have Bill Gates in the back of my head go, people underestimate what they can do in a year, or overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10.
Yep, yep.
So 10 years for sure. I think it's not a problem pulling that off. I don't know that we could do it in 5.
Okay, and how are we
But that's
acquiring
the first time I've ever said that out loud. So that's interesting.
that is interesting. And how are we acquiring clients today?
So we've got word of mouth pretty strong. So what we're looking at now is how do we go into unknown markets and get people that don't know us, don't know our brand, and start getting those engaged. And I just had Erin Marcus on another episode with me, and she freaking just totally called me out of my shit,
I love
which
Aaron.
was such amazing. She's like, Donnie, your whole world is networking and you're asking how do you penetrate a new market? Do what the fuck you teach. So like literally today I put out a post on LinkedIn and said, okay, we've got chapters in Dallas, we got chapters in Fort Worth, we're working on San Antonio, we're working on Austin, but we don't have anybody in Houston. So LinkedIn, who do you know in Houston that's a dynamic leader, B2B, service-based business, and now that post is getting me a lot of people there.
Yeah.
So that's where our next play is to really go after the not so much organic at that point. We're going after direct introductions, but we're not
Yeah.
looking at marketing spend or anything at that point yet.
So let me make sure I got this straight. So up until now, it's been primarily word of mouth. You
Yep.
want to grow to be about 100,000 people, and now you're starting to do more of like a strategically local, almost like an affiliate or like a influencer. You're finding somebody
Yeah.
that could be the central hub there, and you're spreading from there. You're doing that from your social media personally and supported by the team.
Correct, correct. So, kind of the MO for the company is I'll go out, shake the trees, see if it works,
Yeah.
and then trickle it down to everybody else and say, okay, this is what's working. Let's try this. And then the rest of the team will pick it up and then
All right.
they'll start going to the same thing.
So let's take the sort of subjective, the work that you're doing, which is word of mouth, which is really tough to quantify. It's
Yep.
social media that can be tough to quantify in meaningful analytical terms. And then let's tie it now to 100,000 people a year, which is the 10-year goal, right?
Yep.
So if we want to get to 100,000 people a year, that's, quite a few people. So how many people, like, what's the roadmap to accelerate acquisition to that? Because at a certain point, scale is going to become an issue there for you.
100%. So, we are looking at, so the next model that we're getting fixed right now is this idea of a territory leader, which may ultimately lead us to a franchise model, that we're contemplating. So a territory leader with the ultimate goal and objective there is we're taking somebody who's been a year inside of SCN, Success Champions Networking. They've built a chapter to successfully 20 members and they've started a second chapter going. We're now going to say, cool, you qualify to be this territory leader. Here's the standards of that. You're going to have to start a new chapter every quarter, right? Now they become the face, if you will, of that region.
Mhm.
Ultimately going to likely push us into a franchise model, which is going to be the way I think we're going to be able to hit that 100,000. But we haven't said we're 100% going that route because I haven't done the research and things on the franchise side of things. So now it's, how do we go into our current client base and identify potential territory leaders, to get them to kick up? Because if I'm the only one doing it, of course, it's not going to get there. We've got to start building a minion of people that are also going
Yeah.
out and doing this.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach, right? I think all of the structure you're talking about makes sense. I think it's at each level of these, if we understand how to quantify, how to tie our actions to a reasonable belief that they're going to get to our desired outcome,
Right.
right? And so where I would start there is I misspoke earlier. You're looking to get to 10,000 new people per year at a run rate when you're getting
Yeah.
to
Trying to go to 100. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I said
For sure.
100 earlier. So that's 830 people. And so what I would say is, have you built the scaffolding either on paper or in your brain of what it looks like going from your acquisition status you're at now up to 830 people per month? And how do we get there? Because like so how and maybe to make it even quicker or to maybe even simpler is think about like these 830 people or these individual branches as like individual project. How much time and effort goes into building today a successful 20 person
Yep.
group, and then so what does that look like?
Yeah,
So
no,
how
that's
long
awesome.
does
We
that take?
literally just did
Yeah.
this. So,
Yeah.
with new chapters that we have coming into the marketplace with the training we put in structure and everything, a successful chapter will get to 20 members right at the 2 4 6 month mark right now. I think is where, yeah, 6 month mark is 20. So it's basically they're adding 5 members every month,
Okay.
5 person leadership
Great.
team, right? So about 6 months in, we'll get them there. With Jessica, who's doing an amazing job, we found that 6 months run rate, her second chapter that she helped get up and going, they're on pace to do that same math.
Mm.
So if that holds true, then one person within a year's time can get, 2 chapters to 20 members, and maybe beyond. So
Yeah.
that's our current run rate, if you will.
And so the people above that, the recruiters for those nodes, let's call them, right? How many different chapters is that person able to handle?
So that's an unknown factor at this point. We're guessing it's going to be around 5. to handle, because now you're talking to 100 people. So that's going to require them to have an additional person, so we've got to learn that process out.
Okay.
So, kind of the hierarchy in our head right now is we'll have a territory leader. They'll have a guide underneath them, as we're currently calling it. It'll help them manage the chapters. In that theory, in that vein, there might be able to, cool, they got this person running those 5 groups for them. Maybe they can go launch another 5 and then find a guide type of
Hmm.
thing. But we don't know that yet.
Okay. And how many chapters have you launched in the last 12 months?
So, I don't have the specific uh, um, number on that. But it's been, so to give you background, we had a big churn. We realized this year that our biggest differentiator is going to the B2B market. So we had a lot of B2C in there. So we had a massive turnover this year. So number of members, we flatlined. Okay. Number of chapters, we flatlined, but we launched several in the process. So if off the gut, it's we probably launched 8 chapters this year, but
Okay.
still had the same chapter count we had, beginning of the year. So this year is really, really flat.
Awesome. And so we launched 8, which is a little under 1 a month, right?
Yep.
Going forward in the next 12 months, everything goes great. What are you, Donnie, and the team you have today capable of achieving in the next 12 months? How many of those could you potentially launch?
That's a great question. I'm doing math in my head. Um, because we don't have the metrics that says this is how we specifically find a territory leader. This is how, we move forward. The Without understanding the metrics behind it, 12 chapters without a doubt we can launch off next year.
Okay. And so where I would say you never want to answer that question again that way. And what I would
Thank you.
say,
It
I
was
say that with I
painful.
say that only knowing enough about you to know that you get what I mean. But
Yeah.
and the reason why is because uh, if I were you, or what I would recommend that you do, is have some idea of what the outputs are to achieve sort of any meaningful result in the business, big or small. So these are SOPs to get a
Yep.
sales call to close. These are um, we need to get the financials to these ratios in order to get this new loan to expand the business, or any number of things in the business. You should have some sort of hypothesis. So you have this desired outcome. We want to sign up. Let's say we want to set, last year we signed up 8. This year we want to sign up 12. Here's our hypothesis for how that works.
Mm,
We believe that each of these 12 projects are going to take this amount of resources and this amount of staff. And they're going to garner us this revenue and value producing asset or project on the other side of it. And so what I would do if I were you is take the time to take one interaction all the way from the individual person to one interaction all the way at starting a 20-person successful chapter that's been around for 6 months, and just write down, at starting at the highest level, what has to happen for that to go well, and what is the reason that you believe that that's a realistic outcome, right? And so this is where you can get in the weeds a little bit, but you'd be surprised. You mentioned earlier the quote about it's everybody underestimates or overestimates what they can get done in a year and underestimates what they can get done in 10. As a visionary entrepreneur, Donnie, you're an answering machine for your vision and mission. And so if I
perfect.
just sat here, if we just set aside the rest of the day, I could ask you those detailed questions that you'd say, oh, actually, I guess it takes about 15 calls for us to get one person to say yes to the membership. Great. Well, now we exactly know how many calls per day we need to make in order to hit some
Right.
goal. And we
Right.
exactly know how many a representative is capable of handling, which imputes to us how many representatives we need, right? And now we know our salary needs, and then we can compare that with the outcomes. So what I would say is here, you should kind of always be running tests and then kind of planning the next test, very much like how software is. And so I would look at these big goals, which typically don't change very often. And I would really be focusing in, if I were you, on these smaller and medium goals, which are how we're going to get there. Because ultimately, the small goals are small tests with small hypothesis and small outcomes. And the large tests are very big tests with bigger hypotheses, which sort of change through time. You have this ability to sort of weave your strategy through time by testing and measuring, right? And so, does that make sense? Do you have any questions
It
about
does,
that?
and I actually like the hypothesis side of things because you're not saying, "Let's fucking put a dagger in the sand and saying that's absolutely where we're getting to." We're gonna go, "This is what we think we can do," right? That's the hypothesis. This is what we think it's gonna take to do there. Let's go see if that theory works. I really, I appreciate the hell out of that. How do you determine what that hypothesis this is should it be? Because there's more than it's just a guess, right? There's math to it of some sort.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, Ray Dalio is really great about this. He talks about sort of the hierarchy of making decisions when you're doing this. And I don't recall all of the different levels that he has, but one of those is sort of having an idea of what the total outcome is. In this case, you'd call that your vision supported by the mission to get there. And then let's say now you're at annual or semi-annual goals, right? And one important point is he says, don't consider the other parts of the of that hierarchy whenever you're on any given one. And so when you're determining the vision, don't placate your ego and say like, oh, we'll tamp it down because I have lowered expectations of what I can do downstream.
Hmm.
No, actually come up. I love big audacious goals. 100,000 people. Man, there's somebody out there. Facebook has billions of users. They had to at least believe that that was somehow possible somewhere along the way for that to have happened. So I love the 100,000 mark. But once you get below the 100,000 mark, the next step is, okay, well, how do we get 10 years of 10,000 average run rate? Okay, that's another big question. So you answer that question specifically before you consider yourself with, well, how do we get to 833 members a month, which is that run rate, right? And so what I would say is just make sure you're parsimonious, that you're parsing this into each individual thing. And then as far as how do you set what the hypothesis is, it's all driven on by the outcome that you're looking for at the next level, right?
Hmm.
And so if we want to sign up 10,000 people, then the hypothesis has to be this is what we believe it to be the best method for us to get 10,000 people this year. Does that make sense?
Hmm. It
And then you
does. It
say,
does.
because there's a number. I mean, you're capable of thinking of a number of different ways you could add 10,000 users in the next year. Well, you could lower the price to 0 and then pay market, right? And so you would get to 10,000 in a couple of months. You could acquire some audience from somewhere else and purchase them in that way. You could do what you've been doing now, only hire an army of recruiters that you would have to vet and train, right? So there's all these different, I mean, infinite different ways that you could get to any of these goals. The question then becomes, what is the one that is going to have the highest the highest percentage of success in your mind? What is the one that's going to be suited to you and your team as you are today, or as you're financially able to build it in the reasonable future? And what do you want to do every day? Because I think this is the one that too often entrepreneurs don't think about in the short term. They think about what they want to do all day when they retire or when they get
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
cruising altitude.
When I
But
get to
nobody,
here, this is going to be amazing. Blah blah
right?
blah. Yeah.
But meanwhile, they're scheduling, 100 phone calls a day today,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I would say you got to look at it in those terms, and so that's how you work your way back to a hypothesis. One of the ways I like to look at, I actually go to float tanks about once a month. It's been a couple months now, but usually about
That's
once
where
a
you
month.
literally sit in a flow of water,
Yeah,
totally enclosed
yeah,
in.
yes, yeah,
It
exactly.
sounds creepy as hell, but I get
It's
it.
pretty great, but well, the reason I like to do that is because there's just no other outside stimulus, and so I work on my relationships, I work on myself, and I work on my business, the way that you would see like a mechanical engineering diagram exploded, right? And so you see all these constituent parts, and so let's say this is your team, this is the amount of money you have, this is the amount of leads that you have, this is the structure of the business as it is now, and just take a look at it with a fresh set of eyes and say, is this the most efficient, most effective way for me to assemble these assets, this team, this staff, and this business system? And I've been surprised over and over and over again with, oh, we've just been doing that on momentum. Sally is actually really great with people. She should be on the phone talking to our clients. Probably not building the new software that we're doing. And it just so happened that a series of decisions led that person or that asset to be deployed incorrectly. And so when I'm setting hypotheses, is when I'm saying, here's how we're going to go out and achieve these goals. That's what I'm doing. I'm saying, well, what do I have in front of me? What are the assets? What are the tools? What are the resources that I have that I can put to bear? And then as an entrepreneur, it's my job to sort of maximize the return on all of those things. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I recently watched a movie called The Saint of Second Chances, and I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's about a guy whose dad, once upon a time, owned the Chicago White Sox, but was like the original baseball hustler dude. They used to do crazy skits and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But the movie's really cool. I won't ruin that. But the one thing they did in there that I really thought, and so on October or December 11th, I'm bringing the whole team together, rent out of space, get everybody together, whiteboard it all up, and go through a lot of this. But in that movie, um, the family, because they did baseball antics to get people to the stadium, so all kinds of,
Yeah.
you weren't allowed to say any idea was too crazy. So they would come up with crazy ideas, write them on a matchbox or a napkin, and they would throw it in this box called the ideas box. And whenever they needed to make money for the stadium or bring people in, they would reach in and pull out an idea. Okay, let's try this one, right? So I challenged the team that when we come to this December 11th meeting, that there's no holds barred. One of the
Yeah.
things we're going to do is throw as many crazy ass ideas on the table of how do we really start pushing this forward, and then go through, okay, which ones do we think we can actually deploy and try and pull off, right? So they're all supposed to be coming with a whole bunch of ideas. So I've just enjoyed that you said that, because that's one way we're getting to how do we push and really turn the needle on this thing. You know, um, I'm just now as a business owner learning how to look at the team, the players, kind of start become the chess master of, okay, this person's here, this is the accountability. It's fascinating for me because my entire journey has been a sales guy. I was never a manager. I never ran a business, so I've never had to have a resume I've never
Yeah.
filled out an application. I've never had a job description. It was here, go sell this. So I'm just now learning all of this stuff. And it's been a unique process learning to try and put accountability on somebody else, because I was never held accountable because I always achieved. So nobody ever said, here's your next, hoop to jump over. I pretty much set my own, golden task. So learning all this intricacy has been really, really, really fascinating and fun to learn. But there is a massive learning curve as I step into all this, which just means growth's happening, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, the nice thing about that though is, so for starters, Alex Charfin, who's a former mentor of mine, has some really great resources on this. There's things called 4 R's documents, EOS, which is the
right.
book Traction, and
But US
things
is
like
just too
those.
big for a company our size. I mean,
Sure, sure. But the thing I'm specifically referring to though is, as a salesperson, it's very, very easy. This is why you hear so many influencers talk about sales. First of all, it's sexy. It's what drives your business. It's what pays the bills, right? It's very
right.
important. But sales is really easy because it's numbers. It's like, how much ad spend did you have? How many cold calls did you make? How many emails did you make? And then a series of things through that, funnel, right? And then how much dollars and clients did you pull out of the other side, and what's their lifetime value? That's very easy. And Donnie, I couldn't stump you if I tried on how to set up a sales team for your
Right.
organization. If whether we wanted to do paid advertising, which is super easy on a spreadsheet, or even if we wanted to like pay for influencer marketing, there's like very easy, logical steps to go, oh, okay, that person has 1 million followers. I pay them $1,000. I get an X percent, engagement rate from their followers, and I sign up at Y number of people for Z dollars, right? That's very easy to figure out. But every role and every function within your business absolutely has a corollary version of that for themselves. And so you want to take a look at every single role. Like, think of like, you want to define each role of your business as sort of the prototype of what it'll look like at scale. Does that
Mm.
make sense? And so if it's an administrative person, if it's a group leader for or a regional leader, whatever it may be, defining what those people are, and then really, and this is really difficult, really giving yourself the time to think deeply about the objectives of that piece of your business, of your money machine, right? And then figuring out, well, what's success for them? And so it's easy to say, we need a setter in a sales environment. We need a setter to sign up 10 people per week for appointments with salespeople. Okay, great. Well, that's 2 per day. Well, how many calls do they have to make to get one? Well, it's 50. All right, great. We need to make 100 calls a day. Okay,
Yep.
well, that's really easy. Well, how do you do that for somebody that's, let's say, recruiting, that's out recruiting people in their
Or
business network? Or
somebody that's developing a software for you. They're They're
Yeah.
building out your, let's say they're building out your sales funnel, or they're building out your membership platform. There's an I'm an end goal. Like
Yeah.
I'm a see the hill, just take the fucking hill. I don't care
Yeah.
how you take it, just take the damn thing. So to sit back and go, okay, this is your framework to make this successful. I don't know how to wrap my head around that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I never had to have anybody give it to me, and I've never had to give it to somebody else. And now I'm at that place where I've got to
Yeah.
start giving that to people, Um, and I literally don't understand the framework of this is your job description.
Yeah.
Does
Well, it
that make
starts with a
sense?
yeah, it starts with a conversation. You talk to them or you talk to the people that if you already have hired them, you talk to them. If you're talking to if you're thinking about, let's say, developing software or whatever it is, you research it and you figure out. And what you'll find if you just keep clicking the links, you will find a forum somewhere where people will tell you the meaningful differentiation between a good job and a bad job in anything that you want to look for. And so I might say to the software developer, like, okay, well, how long do you think this is going to take? Oh, and you know how they are. They're going to say,
Yeah, yeah.
well, it's really hard for us to say. It could be 3 months and $10,000, or it could be, 24 months and $2 million. Like
By
they
the
give you
way, I
these big
always
numbers.
call them to the carpet. Like,
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
not playing that game, right?
Well, so how do we do that? We scrutinize every time we get one answer in life. There are a minimum of two additional questions that arise,
Right?
right? It's like every time you answer one question. So when you say how much is or how long is it going to take and how much it's going to cost? Well, they're going to tell you, well, that depends or whatever. We'll kind of keep the detail out of it for brevity, but they're going to continue to give you answers. And as long as you are curious enough and analytical enough to just listen, you will get the answer that you want to know. So you may find out that we need to hit uh, 50 lines of code per day that are bug free and checked and moved us towards our goal in order to hit this 3 month deadline. Now, I will tell you right now, I've never developed software, so I'm not the guy to give you like
It
the actual
sounded
step
really
by
damn
step.
smart. I'll give you
But my point though is there's some number of inputs that return an output, and as entrepreneurs, it's easier, not easy, but it's easier for us to focus on a big goal and then hold all these sort of smaller micro and meso projects in our head. But for employees, that's just not what moves them forward a lot of times. And there's different things that move different people forward, but it's much easier. As you know, salespeople, what do sales teams do? Good high speed sales teams at any level, what do? They have daily huddles, they have
Yep.
weekly goals, they have competitions, there's cash competition. There's all these things that are put in place to keep them focused
Yep.
on the next shiny thing coming down the path. And so even if you were somebody who could focus on $1 million a year, all year, every single day, and that gets you up hustling and cold plunging and doing all the stuff you got to do to be ready to fire, lava when you get on the phones. Even if that was you, you're rare. And so we got to identify that and manage the people that are on our teams. And those people need to know when they're doing a good job. And so we need to be able to, as a visionary, vision is only useful if you can pass it on to others.
For
And
sure.
we able to take our big vision and be able to digest it down for people that otherwise just wouldn't be able to have the connective tissue with it. By the way, we only have two choices here, Donnie. We can either be a beautiful butterfly who's a visionary and sees the world as we wish it to be and then goes out and makes it happen, or we can expect everybody to be like us. We cannot have those two ideas at the same time.
Well,
And
and we already know that not everybody's going to be like us,
right,
right? Because
exactly.
a business wouldn't function if everybody was like me.
Right, exactly. And so we have to realize that when you get upset or when you get frustrated because somebody on the team or somebody outside of your vision doesn't see it or is doing something that seems boneheaded, that's actually good. It's actually affirming your value in the market. And so your job isn't to go out and find a bunch of entrepreneurs or a bunch of NASA certified astronauts. Your job is to actually find a bunch of McDonald's employees that can function excellently in your system. Right now,
Tell me
obviously
more
that
about that. Explain that more to me.
yeah, so there's something called the reverse pyramid of management, and the idea is at the very pinnacle of that pyramid, let's say as an astronaut, you have to have the right genetics, you have to have like tons of smarts, physical ability, you have to train for years, and even then, it's like the best of the best of the best that actually can do that job, right? Because we
Right.
need them to be so capable. That sounds glorious. And then on the other side of that pyramid, let's say is a McDonald's fry cook. It's literally all automated; they just stand there and things come out. Well, That's actually a much better business. McDonald's is a far superior business
Agreed.
than NASA. And so I'm not saying that everybody should go buy a McDonald's franchise. But what I am saying is stop building your roles and the tasks and everything associated with it as if you're going to go out and hire astronauts, because you're going to waste a ton of money on salary. And instead, what you can do is you can push all of the systems and processes in your industry or in your business up on that pyramid and make it easier and easier and easier for you to execute with less and less people. A great example of this would be Starbucks. When Starbucks started, they needed you to be trained as like a cool barista. Like you probably needed to know about cool bands just to work at Starbucks in those
Right.
first locations. And like you're essentially like a mixologist, right? That never could have scaled to the way that it has now. So what did they do? They didn't spend time and money on training every single person to walk through a Starbucks training program to be the coolest barista in town who, ate, slept, and dreamt about coffee. Instead, they changed the system to make it easier and easier and easier for them to have a desired outcome with a less skillful employee, right?
Yeah, I
Uh,
really like that thought process. My what keeps running through my head as you're going through this, is everybody always says, hire the smartest dude, hire the one that's already achieved it, and you'll move and scale faster. This to me sounds almost like the opposite of that, where you want to, and I like the idea of hiring for culture fit and then letting them learn the job, right? Right. That makes a ton of sense for me. But I also understand there's a huge learning curve in doing just that,
yeah.
right? Because if they don't understand the program, they don't understand the software and the likes, then, you've got to be dangerously enough to know it enough to be able to guide them to what the end solution of that should be. I mean, so between hiring the best in the game and McDonald's style person, how does that work out? How does that play out?
Well, the answer is it's both, man.
Okay. Okay.
That's the unfortunate answer.
Right, right. Fair, fair,
But
fair.
you strike me as somebody who would buy into the extreme ownership Jocko
Yeah,
Willink.
oh, yeah, all day
Yeah,
long, all
yeah,
day
and I'm
long,
sure your
all day long.
listeners do too. And so let's think about that for a second. By the way, I am too a big believer in that. If I have ownership of my business, of my results, of my staffing, of my training, and of my business systems and processes, then I need to look at the dials that I'm turning. All of those are my responsibility. And so, yes, absolutely hire the absolute best people in the industry. Pay extra for that if you're able to. But at the same time you're doing that, you better be making damn sure that everything you're doing is making sense and it's as efficient and as effective as possible. That people know. By the way, confusion is the result of so much failure. Make sure everybody knows exactly what they can do today to win today and win next month and next quarter and next year. And that becomes really, really easy with things like those 4 R's documents that I mentioned before. But the person who does this best is Elon Musk, because we've already evoked him a few times, but we just evoked NASA. NASA had the best people in the world,
Yep.
and it cost them $200 billion to go to space. Elon said, well, we're going to hire the best people we possibly can too, but we're going to spend a lot of our time making sure that everything that we're doing is the absolute most efficient and effective way to do it. And we're not going to look at any outside resources. I think he says something like, the only rules are the laws of physics. And I just love that
Yeah.
concept of like, if it can be done, then why the hell would we be considering anything else? Well, how do we bring that topic back to like our purview, which is like B2B, B2C, sales, fulfillment, service, networking, things like that? Well, it's just as simple as like, well, how many phone calls do you have to make? How many lines of code do you have to make? And what is the desired outcome from there? And I just think if you have ownership of that process, then there's more than one dial you can be tweaking. Every time I fire somebody, I take ownership of my own, I don't want to say failure, but maybe failure there, because number one, I picked that person. Number
Yeah, yeah,
two,
yeah.
I trained that person. I put them in front of a system. Was that system as effective as it could be? Did I match that system to the person that I chose to fulfill on it? And any number of other questions that I should be looking at. But those are some of the best learning lessons for this exact point. Is like you look at, for me, it's Joe. I got a kid named Joe that I employed, a man named Joe that I employed a number of years ago, and he could have been great for me. I was not yet the entrepreneur, and I
Mhm.
did not yet have the system that I needed to help him to succeed. And as a result of that, that person ended up moving on and doing other things. And it sure felt like it was his fault at the time. But I look back on that and I say, I could take somebody less capable and less motivated, if I had to, than Joe and do 2 or 3 times the output now.
Yeah. Dude, now you're preaching to the choir. 2 years ago, you wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Um, because I'm seeing this same thing play out, as we go through this kind of evolutionary stage we are in the business. I'm not a systems and process guy. I'm working on learning how to be that guy. It's just not a natural thing for me. I'm more of a bull in the china shop. So, but I also see a lot with the Jessica coming into the system and building a lot of these processes for us, that by having an exact roadmap for them to follow, we're able to see the success and duplicate the success in there. So it's such a mental move for me to get to this side of things. Uh, it's not slowing down; it's actually making us move faster. It just feels like we slow down sometimes to put these processes in place. But that goes back to the old cliche, you slow down to speed up.
Yeah, and that's a great opportunity for you to think about hiring the smartest people in the room and
Yep.
not being the smartest people in the room. Because visionary starters that come up with big ideas and paths are not typically the ones that want to be supplying beans and bullets throughout the war, right?
Yep.
And so that's fine. That means you just need to be self aware of enough of that and be able to stand aside from yourself and look at the business objectively enough to put somebody in place who is capable of doing that. And then along the way, make sure that we're setting goals. I like to set goals that are easy to hit, and not that are lazy, but goals that are easy to hit. Because typically, when I do that, I find that my team feels like winners, right? So let's say right now we were setting your goals, and maybe that's a good way for us to kind of come full circle here, as we were setting Donnie goals for the team, and we want to hit 100,000 people in 10 years. Well, I could look at that at 10,000 per year. And I could look at that as 833 individuals per month. And I could say, Donnie, you signed up 8 locations in the last year. Each of those has 20 people. Great. Awesome job. Last month, we signed up 12 people. This month, we need to hit 833. Go. Like, that doesn't work. Now,
No.
all of a sudden, you set this crazy goal. Your team goes out, they do as best as they can. Let's say you signed up 12 people last month. They pull out all the stops and they sign up 100 people. Holy shit, it's by a factor of almost 10, the best month you've ever had, and they have a 700 and something person shortfall, and they
Right.
feel like losers.
Yep.
And so it's really important that you understand sort of what the goals need to be for you now and connect that to what the outcome is going to be down the road. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so
100%.
I really love the idea. Like right now, I'm not going to get specific, but right now we have an employee where I am setting an incentive based structure to their growth. And they're just getting started and trained. And I'm making damn sure that they're going to hit every single one of those goals and that those goals are going to be at least acceptable for the outcome.
Right.
Because that way, now my team feels like special forces operators, right? Now my team feels like they're winners. They're like, oh, yeah. I mean, it may be nothing. Like, our goal was to hit 13. We crushed it. We hit 15.
Right.
That's great. You guys are crushing it. Next month, do you think we could do 20? Dude, not only 20, we're going to hit 21. And then they go out and they hit 21. Well, that same team builds on momentum of winning and working together. There's so much more of like a buoyant feeling on a team when everybody's like passing the ball and the other guy's dunking it. You get into this state of flow that you just can't get in when you crack the whip from day one. And so now you've got a team that's been dominating for 3 quarters and somehow they fall behind. Well, now it's easy to rally them together because they're fucking winners.
Yeah.
So they get together, they pull out the stops, and then they make it happen. And so that same team that goes from 12 to 15 and 15 to 21 goes from like 750 to 850 in a similar amount of time because they're just winners that have been additionally adding on new winning teams and teaching them how we go out and win. So you may one day find out that this let's say it's a unit of 2. There's like somebody that goes out and finds people and somebody that signs them up to register for their for their group, right? You may find out that group can do 50 a month at full speed, like the best of the best will do 75. Well, great. Then you can just go out and have that team teach everybody else, or you even better, structure it based on those best practices. And now you can reproduce that. So you could walk into an investors meeting 3 years from now, 2 years from now, with a track record of, hey man, we're only signing up, 150 people a month. And it's because I can only afford to have these 3 guys. For us to get to scale and really change the world, we need to have 100,000. That's our number. Well, all I need is $1 million to hire 100 teams and to train those teams over the next 9 months. And then we will get big chunks of success. But if you've been tracking it, you have an asset financially and an asset intellectually that is your system. And now you can show that to somebody, you can demonstrate it for them, and the whole conversation, their head will go like this.
Right.
If
Right.
you say things that make sense, smart people will nod their head. And if you can do that long enough, they will give you money. And so it's just one of those things where if I had to just put a guess out there, I would say you'll probably need investment if you want to hit that big of a number in that type of timeline. But the chunks come from making sense and documenting and demonstrating that you can go out and reproduce that. That's how you become mega successful, because you've shown that
Right.
you can solve a problem for an industry, and that industry is nationwide and even worldwide. And so if what you're saying makes sense and you can meaningfully differentiate yourself from the others that are doing it, then people with money will just go, "Yep, that's how I
Yeah,
make
I
money."
don't know if we'll need the investment because I truly feel like we're gonna have a tipping point. Right? They're if you look at BNI, right, they're 30 years in, of doing all the things that they've done, maybe 40 years at this point, but, 'cause they were developed in the 80s, but, so 40 years in to hit the pace and that they're currently at, and that's only the side of BNI that people get to see. There's a whole another several businesses behind BNI because they've done some really smart things. Um, they hit a tipping point at some point in where the organic word of mouth surpassed anything else they could do, because the nature of what's being built. So I have a firm belief that if we can continue to create the absolute best experience for people, word of mouth will outpace anything that we can do because we continue on a monthly basis finding more and more people that are like, dude, you got to experience SEN. You've got to experience this thing. So we're going to be able to push it from the front end, and that's what we're learning to do now. But I think our tipping point of word of mouth is going to be insane.
Hey, let me tag that though. There's an important point that I want to pull out there is everybody's been to let's say a massage therapist that you saw on marketplace or whatever, and you just went and they was like amazing. They lit the candles, they had this wonderful music, they gave me a little mint, everything was great. The experience was totally awesome. You got to try it for yourself. I can go tell 10 people that, and maybe one will go, right?
Right.
But when I go $5 footlongs, everybody goes. And so what I would say is I would start to use your marketing brain a little bit on your business development side of the house. In other words, how do you generate word of mouth? Well, number one, you give them an unbelievable experience. But number two, you need to be able to make it easy for them to convey that value when you're not in the room to somebody else. And so, yeah, they do the first 6 months for free because they're so confident. By the way, I'm not saying you should do that.
Right.
I'm just
Right.
saying,
Right.
like, Alex Hormozy, 6-week challenge, $600 or your money back, right? Like these types of things, the word of mouth really tipped because they had an offer that was not just undeniable, it was an undeniable all-star offer that they made. Love that. But it was also easily conveyable to other people. And it's like, so you could imagine a world in a networking group where it's like, not only is it great, I've met these wonderful people, and this is very subjective and ethereal, but also, and they do this thing where your first meeting, you get 10 leads for free. Like everybody, like they all grassroots it together. And the first time you walk in the room, you introduce yourself, and everybody in there, all the people that are supportive of them, everybody is committed to giving you two fresh contacts or something. I'm just
Right.
making
Right.
something
Right.
up.
Right.
But
Right.
the idea being is like you're essentially like putting marketing copy and you're creating an offer for this is how you build referral programs and
Yep.
things like gyms, right? Is you have something that's a hook, that's meaningful, that's actually giving that person something that they want, right? And so I'm sure, and I know we're not at the point where we're going to go down a whole nother hallway here in
For
this
sure.
conversation, but I'm sure you've done a ton of avatar work, both for who's going to lead these organizations and who the people are that are going to benefit from them. Well, what do those people currently want desperately? And I'm not going to answer the question. I'm just saying that's what I'd be thinking about. I would say, well, how do we give them an immediate dopamine hit from when they hear about our program? They should feel like they've already won. When I heard that there was an Elon Musk book that just came out, I felt like I was already a smarter, better entrepreneur, and I hadn't even bought the damn thing yet.
You're right.
And so I guess that's the way I would look at it is like, how do you convey that when you're not going to be the one in the room and they're not even like listening to your podcast or responding to an ad or anything? It's literally just, Tom, the, Windows salesman is reaching out to his buddy, the, golf pro and saying, I actually think this would really benefit you. Well, how? I picked really weird examples there, Dom.
Right. But It makes
Yeah.
sense. Well, and I wrote that down. I mean, it's the whole idea, and I just love that phrase. When they hear about SEN, how what is it that makes them feel like they've already won? That's just a cool way to look at it. Dude, we could continue to do this and I think we're going to, but really, really, really appreciate not only the way that you explained a lot of things to me, but how you can tell that you really give a shit about this stuff.
Oh, I
You
do.
know, I love finding people that are just so passionate about helping and serving others to this level, man. So I appreciate the hell out of this. How do people get in touch with you if they want to reach out, learn more, tell them about Spear and Clover? Because I think it's a cool thing. I think my logo's cooler, but that's just me.
All right. All right. I got it tattooed. I'll get yours tattooed.
Right? There
Uh,
you go.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I really do love doing this. And so if you want to get a hold of me, I'm really easy to get a hold of because I love talking to entrepreneurs. I love helping them solve problems. It makes me better. It makes other people better. It makes the world better. I love it. So you can find me at Spear and Clover on Instagram, on YouTube. I'm Jason at Spear and Clover if you want to shoot me an email, spearandclover.com. I help entrepreneurs with all sorts of things, very much like this conversation. Starting at big picture and working its way down to tactical. And that's pretty much it. I do love talking to entrepreneurs. I'll do that any chance I can. And check out the Steer and Clover podcast.
Love it, dude. Thanks for coming on, brother. Really,
Of course,
really
thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Hey guys, if you hung out with us this long, do me a favor and make sure you take a screenshot of wherever you're listening to or watching this. Tag me and Jason both in it. I'll make sure I'll come and comment on it. If he sees it, I'm sure he will as well. But otherwise, love you, mean it. See you. Bye.